Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of New Language Learning and Teaching Environments, where we meet with the authors and editors of books in this book series. My name is Hajo Reinders. I'm actually the editor of the book series, and as some of you might know, this series has been around for quite a few years now. We have a lot of titles in the series, 32 at last count. And today I'm very pleased to announce that there is another one. Probably by the time you watch this video, it will have already been released. At the moment, it's in production. We're nearly there. And today's podcast will be about discussing this exciting new book, which is called Innovation in Korea. And I have my two wonderful co-editors with me. Would you like to just say hi to our listeners and viewers and introduce
Sure.
yourselves?
Hello, my name is Chu Kyung Park. I'm very happy to be this wonderful group, and I'm honored to serve as one of the co-editors.
Hello everyone, I'm Dusan. I'm very excited to work with these wonderful editors and also our contributors. I used to work in Korea as a
Mm.
teacher, and now I'm working in Hong Kong for I think now around over 6 years or so. So I was very excited and very pleased to learn about innovation in ELT in Korea. So
Mm.
yes.
We have a good team because, as we try and do with these innovation books about different countries, we always try and have one person who is from that country and who lives and works in that country, and that's Ju Kyung, of course. And then we'd like to have one person who is from that country but maybe working and teaching overseas, which is Ju Sung. And then one person who has some affinity or connections with the country, but who is not from that
Mhm.
country. And that's me in this case. My wife is Korean, and I've been to Korea many times. So that's the three of us. And you might be wondering why we got together, but that explains it.
Right. And then I should say that I taught English at college level for more than 30 years in Korea, and I just retired last year. But then out of my teaching experience in working with many ELT professionals in Korea, I think that's why I got involved with this wonderful project.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the project. Ju Sung, do you want to just very briefly summarize for us what is this whole business about innovation in language learning and teaching? What is that about?
I think this book really provide a very important the concept of innovation in the local context, such as Korea. Because when we talk about innovation, we broadly talk about innovation like technology and new approaches. But what it really means in the local context, like Korean EFL context, I think this book really give us a very comprehensive, holistic dimensions of what it means to educators and
Mhm.
researchers, uh, and also offer like directions for our future research, pedagogy, and policymakers. So I think this capture the what this whole book is
Mhm.
all about.
Yeah, you've mentioned something really important, which is the local nature of innovation. So that's one key, I think, feature that we try and emphasize, not only in this book, but in other books in the series as well, which is that it's not some sort of abstract concept like innovation that only comes out of some tech companies, like you said, Jusong, but it's something that is really very specific to a particular context. Tukin, what are some other features of innovation for you that have also been manifested in the book?
Actually, innovation in the context of ELT in Korea is has been one of the key words, but at the same time, innovation causes a lot of conflict because Korea is such a top-down society, and so even though people always desire to have some innovations, and yet in order to make the realized innovations actually working in the classroom, there always have been struggles and conflicts in for many different reasons. And then I think our book, in that very sense, is a right thing to, in a sense, present what and how and why those conflicts and problems regarding the innovations in ELT in Korea would work.
That's also a theme that I think comes out very clearly in the other books in the series about different countries. We have a title on Thailand, we have one on Japan, one on the Middle East. one on China, one on the Caribbean, and all of those titles, including the one about Korea, emphasize or rather reveal that there is this real tension, as you said, Chu Kyung, between top down, bottom up, or you could also describe it in some cases as theory to practice or ideas to application. You know, like somebody can have a great idea sitting in their office in a university, but does it work for a teacher in a primary school on Monday morning, and can it be integrated meaningfully into that context? So I think those are a few very important characteristics of how the three of us and our authors try to operationalize, if you will, the idea of innovation. So Jusong, having of course been very closely involved with the book, not only with the chapter that you led on in terms of the writing, but also in helping the authors of the book and reading the manuscripts and giving feedback. What are some of the things, and this is actually a question I suppose for all three of us, but for you, Jusong, what are some of the things that you've learned about innovation and language learning and teaching in Korea that you didn't know before?
As you and Jugang mentioned in the just now, when I doing the research about ELT in Korea, it often a top-down and government-centric approaches. But all our chapters, our 13 chapters are related to the field-driven or grassroots innovations, which is like bringing all the conceptual top-down ideas down to the earth so that we know how teacher can actually use those policy into the day-to-day practice. And we know how teacher educators can operationalize, put the idea into teacher education programs. And also, how the theory, although they are from the Western, adapted to the fit into a Korean context so that it really work in local Korean context. So that's one of the biggest takeaway I learned from this book.
And to me, it was really thrilling to see those very innovative researchers in the classroom instructors from this book project. As I told you, mostly Korean ELT from elementary to tertiary level. We have this national curriculum, which is a cornerstone for English language teaching in at all levels. And yet, as Chusang just mentioned, all these authors are individual researchers and classroom instructors who came up with these innovative ideas out of their own personal interests, and researchers, I would say, the conscience to develop their professionalism. So they may not be the mainstream. Some of them are, some of them may not. And yet I think it will trigger real kind of direction toward the actual innovations in ELT in Korea. So I'm really happy to be able to get all these authors from. Actually, we have various the groups and levels of authors from elementary to tertiary level, and we have graduate student and class the school teacher and university professors. So I'm really happy to have all these authors with us.
Yeah, and that really also shows the diversity, right? Like when it comes to something like innovation, that we already pointed out that it's very contextual, it's very specific to the local situation. And if you don't have someone who is deeply embedded in and thoroughly understands that setting, then it's almost impossible to really initiate and certainly to sustain innovation, right? So I guess a question that I have for both of you, maybe starting with you, Jusong, is like, having worked with our wonderful authors and having, ourselves also thought so much about innovation in different contexts, what have we learned about what makes innovations stick? Meaning, what have we learned from the different chapters and different authors about the kinds of features or characteristics of a project or a new idea or a new methodology or a new technology that make it more likely that it will be successful, not in the short term, but that it will stay around and have an impact in the longer term?
When I work on the conclusion, I had to read very carefully each chapter and try to find out what are the common themes, what are common patterns that emerge from each chapter. And one thing I found was that empathy stages. Like
Mm.
instead of just introducing new technology or new model, new pedagogy or new ideas, each author try to provide a contextual idea and identify a real life local issues and problems, and then they define them, and then they talk about innovative approaches such as
Mm.
model teacher professional development activities and innovative pedagogies and new technologies such as AI, and then how the teacher can carry out those activities that fit in the local context, so that the beneficiaries, who are the people who receive the treatment or new approaches, can show the benefits as a result of implementing innovation in the context. So I think it's a very sustainable, because these authors really understood the real issues and problems among the beneficiaries they are trying to help, so that they can, invite the colleagues from other disciplines or colleagues from the researchers who are the teacher, can work together to address the real life issue in that particular context. So I think that really make this innovative, localized innovation work well in Korea. But of course, it can be applicable across other similar contexts.
I absolutely agree with that, Chusong. And I think innovations always arise when we have some kind of problems to solve. And then when those innovative ideas came up, but then if it doesn't touch the actual part that we have to scratch, and then it will just disappear. But I remember some of our chapters talked about how they came up with these innovative ideas, and then how they implement those ideas into their actual classroom, and how their students reacted to these ideas. And then when, as Chusong said, those students actually liked the idea and wanted to keep up with this innovative idea, then innovation stick and then stays. But if it doesn't work with the students who actually are supposed to get the benefit out of these innovative ideas, then it wouldn't work. But so I think some of the chapters which talked about how successful their actual innovative ideas in their own teaching show very good examples how we will keep the innovation continue to work.
I think we've just touched on two more features of innovation. One is that it's obviously very closely tied to some sort of improvement. I mean, if you're changing things and maybe innovating them, whatever that means to you, but there is no benefit to the end users, whoever that may be in your context, can you really still call it an innovation? Perhaps there's an argument to be made that it's not. So, not talking about ideas or new changes in a vacuum, but rather linking it very clearly with the intended outcomes, and also observing, evaluating, measuring whatever is appropriate, whether or not it has had that outcome. And the second feature I would say is, and I think both of you have touched on this, is the very close relationship between the project, the innovation, and the various stakeholders. So it's never just about one teacher or one program director or one researcher who has a great idea, but it's very much about understanding who might impact this project, who might benefit from it directly, who might benefit from it in the future. And I think one of you mentioned the word sustainability earlier. I think all of that is, at least in the education field, a key feature of sustainable practices, where you're changing things sometimes because you have to or because you want to, for whatever reason, but you're doing that in such a way that it benefits all of the different parts of the context, your community that you're working in and with. I think that's probably another key component.
I agree, because each chapter, the authors have a very strong context experience. So I call them context experts, meaning that they are expert in the particular context. So, for example, when the researchers go to the field and work with the teachers, they, of course, they have an extensive theoretical knowledge or research methodological ability, but what's lacking is the contextual knowledge. But our author in this book have a very extensive and very deep contextual knowledge, so that they identify a very, very real issue observed from that context.
Our authors have been very patient with us. It's been a very lengthy process. Obviously, we want to do this very properly. We've had multiple rounds of reviews and feedback. And so for those of you listening, watching, and eventually reading the book, just, yeah, think about that, how much time and work and energy and love has gone into this particular project, as it always does with these projects. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of fun, but they're also a lot of work. So thank you to our authors. For those of you listening, watching, we are currently with the series calling for submissions for new titles that could be about a specific country that we haven't covered yet, or on any other topic relating to innovation in language learning and teaching, new language learning and teaching environments. I'll include a link to the publisher's website where you can find information about the series and how to submit a proposal, as well as a link to a video that I created a couple of weeks ago telling you a little bit more about the series and what it aims to do, and also how you can get in touch with me to run your ideas past me. I hope all of you will have a chance to read the book or some of the chapters in it. Whether or not you are interested specifically in Korea doesn't almost matter, because I think, as Jusung and Jukyung have eloquently elaborated, you learn a lot from seeing, reading, hearing about other people's experiences. Like, where did the ideas come from? How did they get implemented? Why did it work, or why did it not work? What were some of the variables that played a role? And of course, a lot of those experiences really transfer very well to other settings too. So whether you're particularly fascinated by Korea, or just generally with ways of improving and innovating language learning and teaching, please, if you can, have a read. And yeah, we look forward to maybe receiving your proposal one day in the future as well. Thank you, everybody, and take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.